This episode is sponsored by Marty's Gymnasium. Guys, today, episode 30, looming. I have a very special young lady here with me today, a Latin American dancer, Doctor. So we'll say that Munifa said Doctor, Dr. Jocelyn Solomons. It's an honor to be here in your office today. How are you doing?
Thank you, JR. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Thanks for taking out your time. I know you have a busy schedule. You dotted us in today, and now that really means a lot to us. So Jocelyn, just tell me a bit about your background, where you come from, and yeah, just your love for sport and dancing.
Sure, long story. So the dancing part I started when I was 7. Went to Solomons-Ep.30 Methodist Primary School, sick as a squirrel,
Okay.
I'll say. And then started my dancing there essentially. You know how we in the communities are, you get your kids into all sorts of sports.
Yeah.
I played netball at that stage. And dancing was one of those extramural activities that was on the cards at school. And then the rest was history from there. Dancing opened doors for me to also receive a bursary to Somerset College. So I started at Somerset College in grade 5, completed my matric year there in 2013. And dancing was just something that I did throughout school. Played hockey, played netball, did the dancing after school.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I'd get home at about 7:30, 8, still have to do homework, get into bed just before 10.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, same thing. And then university was a no-brainer. Dancing still continued. The sport, besides dancing, not so much because there was not a lot of time.
Yeah.
And starting university, I had to sort of cut out on all the other dance genres. So I used to do ballet, modern, jazz, contemporary, you name it.
Sure.
And then I had to pick when I came to university.
Yeah.
And so I continued my Latin dance journey. I was a solo Latin dancer for many years. A lot of people probably don't know what that is or what it looks like, but it essentially means you don't have a partner.
You dance alone.
Yeah, you dance alone. Like it's you. And then my coach at that time, Athol Kent, he said to me, listen, you've hit a ceiling with this solo Latin thing. You need to get a partner. And I also felt like I outgrew it at that stage. Then started couples Latin, probably in my second year of university. And today I've had about 2 or 3 partners. Still have awesome relationships with many of them, not in touch with the first one, but my previous partners, a really good relationship. Normally people think when you end a dance partnership, it's because of, partnership struggles, but it wasn't that. Thankfully for me, it wasn't that. It was more just, partners going through their own things in life, choosing a different career path, their jobs, family, taking responsibility. So currently I dance for Donovan Forbes Dance Academy. People in the dance world know him. He's also a school teacher. So I think in my life I've got this connection with coaches and teachers, and people that teach other people to be better versions of themselves. I think that's the golden thread. And so the dancing, where it started, it's been over 2 decades. Doesn't feel like it. but I'm here, and it's always something that I said I love doing, but the teaching part, I struggle to put my mind on, do I want to become a dance teacher or not? And then I had some time to figure that out, and I realized this teaching other people to dance is not really for me, strangely enough.
Yeah, sure.
Even though I enjoy being a dancer myself, I love the being taught part more than so the teaching part of it. But then I found myself lecturing, so that's a different way of the teaching coming through. In that regard.
Okay, no, 100%. Wow, so that's, I mean, we talk about 2 decades of dancing, and obviously, all the different genres. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what is the favorite one, but out of the other genres, which was your favorite styles of dancing?
Probably hip hop, because that was my first love. So everyone knows hip hop as the street style. That's where I started. That's my roots. But if you ask me to dance anything street right now, I'm going to look like a fish out of water, 100%. Because the more classical styles of dancing took over the majority of my dance career and its span. So if I had to go back into some hip hop now, it's going to look a bit, soos hulle sê, bietjie tight.
But jy verloor mos die the movements.
The essence
the-
van it.
yeah,
Definitely
yeah,
not. I'm sure muscle memory will come back. Give
Of
me
course,
a
yeah.
couple of months, and then I
Mm.
could maybe pull it off.
Yeah.
But someone with a trained eye will say these classical training in here
Yeah.
definitely, because that technique starts, the rawness, I think, is what's required in street styles of dancing. Whereas with your classical styles, it's a little bit more refined,
Oh,
bietjie
yes.
meer in sy box,
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's really, really insightful, in terms of, I know nothing of dancing or classical or,
Street styles.
Yeah, street style. Also, was the hip
Yes,
hop
yes, there we go. There we go.
I think my moves now here, darling. But yeah, in terms of, I just want to touch on your partners, and before that, I just want to go back to the Squirrels that you were talking about. Actually rings a bell. I think was it Damien Willemse that was also part of the Squirrels, some of the rugby boys from that
So
side.
you see how I strategically mentioned that.
Yeah,
By association. So I don't know if I can, I say I don't know if I can call myself a squirrel, because I was only there for about, 4 years, 5 years?
That's long enough.
But I mean, that's where the love of sport started. So there must be something that the school is doing in like, innately. It's something about the culture of the school that makes their pupils flourish in their sport. And both my brothers were there as well. And they absolutely excelled in their sport codes. I mean, rugby, karate, gymnastics.
Sure.
So it's not coincidental that we've got Springbok champions and that we've got, people that excel in sport. There must be something that they do
out of
right.
a small school, eh?
Absolutely.
Out of a small school. Yeah, no, that's really that. It has to be something that the teachers are doing right, yeah. And from the Squirrels, that's actually, there's the other question I wanted to ask you, the initial question. Your partners, how do you choose a partner for dance? Like, do they select, as a coach select it, or the teachers, or gaan jy op en sê, all right, jy kom ons try, ons kyk, next ene, boom, okay, werkie?
Sure. Let me start by saying it's a bit of everything, because I came into the partnership thing quite late. Normally when you're young, it's there's 10 boys in the class, there's 10 girls in the class, we pair up with each other, and then we hold hands and we dance, and then that becomes your partner. For me, it was a little bit different. My coach or coaches had a gentleman in mind, had me in mind, and they think about normally the strengths, the dance styles. Are you very technical? Okay, so I need someone very technical with someone that's got a bit more performance. Together we can make this work. And what that looks like is, so my coach would say, Jocelyn, you and JR, let's give this a try. But it's not just a kom ek in jou hande vas en ons doen een of twee danse and that's it. It's not like that. It's a 3-4 month process. Well, at least that's how it should be. You can have an off day, I can have an off day. Now you're leading me wrong, your lead is too strong, I don't want to follow. It's like a marriage.
It sounds like a relationship,
It really is. And so that's what I'm saying. My partnership with my previous 2-3 partners, it was easy. I think because we're older, more mature, we know what we want out of life. So to communicate, listen, ek voel nie aan vandag nie. I can say that and you pick up the slack. I'm just gonna mark today. That means I'm at a 60%. That's no nie wow and all out there nie. So and then it comes to a time where usually couples are together for 10 years, 8 years. They end up getting married, engaged. Then they actually become life partners. And some of the most successful partners internationally are actually married. They because you share so much of your time with each other. You tour together. You in and out of dancing 24/7. So it's kind of this thing where you start growing a bond off the floor as well, which is great. With my other partners, I mean, it was a short run. Maybe 2 years. Longest partnership was about 2 years. And many of my partners will say I'm full of it.
Full of ish.
Yes, because and I know what I want, and I'm quite headstrong. And because I was a solo dancer for so long, I know what things should feel like. So if you coming into this partnership, and I say straight, as jy nie vir my kan beter laat voel as wat ek myself kan laat voel, then this isn't a partnership. So make me feel better or different. So it's been difficult. So to the partners that I've had before, they've had to put up with a lot. Maar hulle het
Ja.
geweet hoe my te hanteer.
Yeah. Okay. But like in terms of dancing, so obviously you're talking about leading and following, you know. How was it for you as a solo dancer to obviously take to follow, you
Yeah.
know, follow the lead basically?
Very difficult. It
Ah,
still is because you're so independent. And for example, something like turning or spinning, you have to wait for the man to lead you. There's a certain resistance.
Yeah.
So if I don't use the resistance, either I'm slower or
Yeah.
I fall off my feet. It's one of
Okay.
two things.
Yeah, yeah.
So my default is prepping, doing something, stopping, because I have to balance myself. And oftentimes my partner says to me, my current partner, he says, just wait for my lead because you'll be faster and you won't have to stop yourself.
Okay.
So I need to remind myself that there is someone that can support you,
Yeah,
which is very difficult because now you have to receive and you have to follow what they're giving and what they're doing. And oftentimes it's we laugh. We laugh about it because he understands. I come from a background where it was all just me. I spin on my own, I stop on my own. The speed, the performance, everything has to happen in it and all comes down to me. So it's been difficult and it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, it's interesting to hear your perspective on the dancing and the leading and the partner. But how were you able to take the dancing into your relationships outside of dance?
Sure. Well, I must say, my current significant other can't dance, but don't tell him that. He thinks he can.
Rugby speel,
but he can play rugby, okay? And I'm okay with that. That's his strength. I think I'm so receptive of there's a lot of things that I lack or can't do or I'm not good at. And to look at the other person and say, where I can't come up, you come up for me. And that's great. Or I can learn. And sometimes the best way to learn is to follow the example that you're being given. So whether it's in the workplace, learning from colleagues that have been through many trials and tribulations, I'll often ask for advice and say, help me, guide me. Or I'll often ask for other methods or ways to do it. In my other relationships outside of work, it's often a check-in to say, listen, I don't understand this, can you help me? But it's really identifying where I'm not good, where I'm lacking, and not being afraid to ask for help. And to be vulnerable, especially to say, actually, if you help me, I can be better at this than what I'm currently am.
Okay, yeah, that's I mean, that's an awesome answer. And that's actually just that correlation between the dancing and the relationships, and obviously, you know, just strengthening it, you know, and knowing how to pick up or where to let go.
Balance.
The balance, ek dink my vrou sal ek vir jou sê ek kan net baie goed dans. Ek sal net myself uitgee as 'n danser. Ek kan 'n bietjie jazz. Ek kan my vrou sal seker ook sê nee, ek kan nie lekker jazz nie. But that's actually how I met her. Was also just saying, hey, I want to dance with you. And she's like, kom ons jazz. Even though I specific ding in die community, the jazz. That was in die colored community. But en sy wou nie saam met jazz nie, maar sy is my vrou vandag so. Ek moes iets reg gedoen het.
So somewhere the lead and the follow worked
out. Something worked out. But I just want to touch on to your studies and what obviously your thesis on the rugby and the dancing, the correlation between it. Obviously, I know your passion for rugby, and I know Doc Krak played an integral part in that whole, you know, in your whole in your study situation.
So the master's study was about dance and rugby. I say dance because people relate easier to it. But how it came about, there was initially a pilot study that Professor Krak and Eileen Africa, also from the Department of Sport, Exercise and Lifestyle Medicine by Langboord. So they knew that I was interested in pursuing a master's, and they said, listen, we have a pilot study where we actually tested whether we can improve rugby players' flexibility and mobility. And they said, but with your dance experience and you wanting to do a master's, we believe that this could actually be broader than just that. And I said, by all means, let's go, let's give it a go, let's see where we can take this. brainstormed a little bit, and between Prof. Clark and Prof. Eileen, she comes from a dance world, ballet, and of course he comes from rugby. My two worlds seemingly combined.
Oh yes.
I never played rugby. I just always had a passion for watching the game. I was interested. I think the sports science lens just was always there. Just very critical in terms of like why they do certain things, and inquisitive about the rules of the game and how it's applied, and there's so much happening. It's not just people running and passing the ball, right? Anyway, I can talk about it for days. And then back to the drawing board, what should we do with this? And I thought, I have so much of this dance experience and dance genres. I need to do something with this gift. And then we came up with a plan that I would sort of look at the general biomechanics and the movement abilities and biomotor skills of rugby players, and see what type of dance styles and steps correlates with it. Because, I mean, if you look at your rugby players, there's footwork, there's rhythm, there's timing, you know, line outs, there's timing involved, there's also strength, there's movement. I mean, there's a lot of similarities in dance. And if you look at our speedsters and the steppers, footwork, I mean, surely they can salsa or jazz. I mean, if you think about it. So then I created this, or designed this intervention, try to see basically in a 45-minute workout plan, doing certain movements, how would those movements and the intervention over like a 12-week period influence rugby players' biomotor skills. So we're speaking about strength, flexibility, mobility, power, particularly body weighted, because there was no point in doing a 1-rep max test if I wasn't going to be doing something that correlates with it in terms of the dancing. So, for example, I used ballet. We jumped up and down, pointed our toes, tried to do some foot strength, flexibility, mobility, salsa for the coordination, and some speed work. A lot of mobility work, because what we find is rugby players do a lot of flexibility things, but the mobility sometimes lack, or vice versa. And then they wonder why they can't, you know, touch their toes. So with the group of genes, it's funny that you mentioned that I had. My introduction to them was, please touch your toes. So I worked with academy players, rugby academy players. No one could touch their toes, and I said, how are you, professional, semi-professional, professional rugby players, but you cannot touch your toes? I think there's something very wrong with that. And so I spoke about injury prevention and sort of how that links into injury prevention or injury proneness, and recovery methods. And I also showed them a rugby team overseas that uses ballet as part of alternative training to do rehab, pre-ab type of exercises. And so I said, I sound crazy, but it's worked somewhere else. So let's give it a shot. Let's have our own version. And I think it was very, very successful, the study. I wrote an article on it, which got published, and a lot of great feedback from the gents, just to say, listen, just off the field, it was even if you didn't think you were getting anything else from it, but the ability to switch off, and have some music in your ears, and just relax and switch off from the day-to-day rugby intensity training, then that was even a blessing. Coaches also had great feedback, because they said, Joss, these gents were speaking about the transferability of what they were doing with you dancing, and then coming out to the field, and they were like, oh, I actually feel a little bit more mobile, or I can run faster because my range of motion has improved. And so if range of motion improves, you're not pulling a hammy, you're not at risk of pulling a quad or an ankle going or something like that. So it wasn't just, you know, let's get them to dance. It was about, how do I use an alternative training method to still instill some kind of improvement in their biomotor skills, and in their high performance training. So that was the master's study. PhD, also rugby, also rugby. That's what you asked. And the PhD, I knew that I wanted something to do with rugby. I didn't know why or how. And then Prof. Clark said, but you cannot just do a rugby study because you want me to be your promoter. And I said, that's not it. When I started my master's, I said, this is what I'm committed to. And I need, somewhere there needs to be a rugby link, because there's so much dancing. Everyone's going to expect it. I know so much about dancing. A PhD needs to impact lives, and it needs to change your perspective, and it needs to challenge you as a researcher and an academic. So I felt that there was work left undone within rugby, but I didn't know in what area specifically. So originally I wanted to look at players that transfer from 15s and 7s and 7s to 15s, and how that correlates and why they transfer, what the transition looks like, profiling, success, etc. And then Prof. Clark always asks difficult questions, and he said, okay, but then what? And I couldn't answer him. And so back to the drawing board during COVID. And him and I both, during our conversation, I said, these are the gaps that I've identified. And he said, start on your doorstep. And I said, exactly. And so we pointed out women's rugby. And he said, hello, you're a female. Your story, your narrative will come in so well with this research. I think it's going to challenge you. And I think it's going to change your perspective about rugby, because I never watched women's rugby. And so I had to reflect, deep, honest conversation about why isn't it appealing to me? Why am I not watching it? Why am I skipping that? Why are other people skipping that? And so that's where the journey started. And sometimes I believe I'm definitely a feminist after that. And I never would have said that years ago. But the way my worldview has shifted, it really does. I think your PhD should shift your paradigm a little bit. And challenge you to think outside of the scope. And so I had to reflect on me being a woman of color in a sports science industry, or within sports science, in this current day and age. Talking about rugby, talking about being a female in a seemingly male-dominated industry. Because I always saw myself as an S&C. I'll be out on the field, after my undergraduate sports science degree, daar gaat jy, S&C. And then, my life took a little bit of a different turn. And I ended up an academic. Not ended up because it wasn't by choice. It definitely was by choice. But I think the moral of the story in that was it was a complete paradigm shift for me personally as well. I got to know so much of myself, but also the people that I shared these stories with. The players that I got to speak to, the coaches that I got to speak, the management, players really opening up, being vulnerable, the communication. People often speak about communication being important because you need to communicate effectively. But what does that mean? It actually means listening with intent and with empathy, and listening to understand and really making that person seem comfortable. This is why there's wars outside. People just don't have an opportunity to sit down and talk. We don't know how to sit down and talk anymore. And so before I give all my feminist quotes, that's how I ended up with women in sport as my research focus, and something that I really am passionate about and want to drive forward.
There's a lot to take in, but I want to, definitely, and it also it broadens my scope as well, based on what you did, and like what would you say, what do you think is your take on female rugby? First, and why you say people skip it, I can tell you why I think so. Obviously, women haven't been playing rugby for a long time, so I think it's a new sport to ladies, So I think that needs to take a bit of time for them, obviously, to get to a level where you can say, right now, you can see it has changed. But I can already see there's been a change, in the past few years, like drastically, and also with the sevens, and sevens, 15s, it's making a big impact on their game. But something that you mentioned as yourself, a woman of color, being in this environment, sports science, I'm pretty sure there's not many women of color in the sports science environment, especially in Stellenbosch and obviously the greater South Africa. What do you think? How are we gonna get more women of color in the rugby environment, men's rugby environment, but like at a higher level? Because currently, there's not really men of color in influential positions. So talking about head coaching positions in South Africa. So how are we gonna get the females, obviously first the men and then females into positions? How do you think we're gonna do that?
Through representation. So it's about seeing someone like me and knowing, oh, I recognize that. I can also be that. And that's something that I found in my, not just something, but it's actually it was surprising to me just to realize the extent of social media or media and representation and what a big role that plays.
Yeah.
And I make this example where if, say for instance, you interview a male rugby player, stats, tackles, it's numbers, quantitative, when is your big this, that, the other, you email, interview me as a female, how did you get here? What was it like? Shame. So we need to stop that narrative of shame for it. Why can't you speak about my stats? My next contract, my vision for myself, my leadership capabilities, how the team stepped up, what was the team dynamic like? And the problem is it's that narrative that's going around, and the media is one of the biggest influences of why we haven't shifted mentally as South Africans. So that socio-cultural context, we are still stuck there. With apartheid, with certain sports being on the back burner, we need to start shifting, and we can only shift to what you can see. And so if we're going to keep playing the highlights of the men's game and not the females, then what is there to talk about? So the certain narrative that needs to be pushed, I think the media has a huge responsibility in terms of how we communicate. And it was great to hear Leila Arison probably about 3 weeks ago. She was commentating. And it was when the guys were also playing, and I was thrilled to hear that. And I'm not saying just put us everywhere to say we tick the boxes that there's a female now on a platform, but I'm saying utilize the females that have already made an impact and that are putting up their hand and saying, I'm willing and able, and assist them, and stop this fast tracking of to set who up for failure. Put me into the system, educate me, provide me the support. As het 5 jaar vat het 5 jaar. But let's then go through those teething pains and know we're really doing something great, and there's a sustainable product. And let's help all those former players, female players, come back into the system, whether it's as a coach, assistant coach. Start something where there's mentoring around how to become a player coach, peer mentoring, peer coaching. How do we work with grassroots level development, get your babawa lachas in to go to schools and say, here's a rugby clinic, how can we start off on a developmental level? Because what we found in our South African women's rugby system is you have coaches that are having to coach at high performance level and development at the same time. Who peaking and how do I catch a ball in one session? Girls are still dropping balls, ladies are still dropping balls. Why? They come from other sports in the system for a year or two, expected to pitch at high levels, to play at high levels against Canada, England, New Zealand, Fiji. And then we turn back and we say, oh, hulle het alweer 14-0 verloor. They didn't qualify. Why? Because when you speak to the men, they qualified, they didn't qualify. To the ladies, oh, shame. How did you get here? No, speak about what did it take to qualify to get here. Actually, we've only been able to prep for 2 years with a solid team. Then you realize, oh, there's so much behind the preparation and where they had to get. The achievement for them to even qualify is big. Not even the ending top 3, top 5, or whatever the case may be. So bottom line, the narrative that is out there needs to change, and it starts with us, how we conversate, how we speak about women in sport, what we encourage, and just the way we handle the topic in general.
I definitely think, you know what the thing is, because me being a father of 2 girls, so it changed my mind a lot, as it comes by sport and different types of sporting, and how am I gonna boost my girls to play all sports, or to be able to be on the same level as a boy that's playing a sport, you know what I'm saying? So that's actually why I'm asking the question females being in higher positions in rugby, you know. Because I mean, yes, there are commentators. You have, you know, there's certain your Katualos and your, you know, Lady Ragas and these guys
Yeah.
that are commentators and they sports journalists, pundits,
Yes.
on Supersport or doing all these great things, but there's still not enough, you know. Like I said, with color in the rugby, in the game. I mean, we're just narrowing it down to rugby for now, but rugby, cricket, football. It's all the same things. We need women in directorial positions, you know, to be able to call shots, to be able to say, listen here, who's the next group of boys that's coming out of high school?
Absolutely.
You know, is there any female scouts out there? You know, of vat hulle maar net die woord van die mans wat die talent scout, you know what I'm saying? So maybe from a female's lens, you'll see a female rugby, how can I say, scouts lens. You get, maybe you'll get more talent or in different positions, you know. That's just my take on what I think, you know, where it's lacking, I think. Because I mean, if you do play rugby for 5 years, I mean, what can you expect, you know? You're gonna need a fast tracking, like you said. You're gonna need a fast tracking, not just in terms of skills, but in terms of everything holistically around women's rugby. Like I was talking to a physio the other day, and she basically told me it's the first time she worked with a female team. So now the way of strapping is different, because you dink nie aan borste and, you know, body parts, bras, what sport bras and good. So now you need to strap a shoulder, but you must take in regard, you know, you can't strap across the breast, you know. So it's small things like that, and the way they want their strapping done and the stuff they write on their tape, it's different because it's still females, you know, it's girls.
And to you,
or ladies.
You touch on that topic, and one of my co-promoters, Cherie Becker, she's from the UK, also South African, but an absolute like heavyweight when it comes to sport and sort of more the gendered environment. So she had a talk, and she spoke about gendered environments, and she challenges us not only in how we speak about women in sport or ladies in sport, but also what do we do in our environments that sort of says this is for guys and this is for ladies. Is it a lot of players said to me, you pitch at a club rugby match and it's only gents change room, so the urinals are there. Immediately you exclude it. Kit gets handed down, cut for gents, the shorts, wit broekies. For ladies, we need to think about certain things. You know, you get into high performance centers, ladies section, little dumbbells and the cardio machines. What are you telling you?
Foam roll,
foam roll, cardio machine, dance mat, yoga mat. You know,
what are you saying? They can't pick up the heavy weights.
What are you saying? For the gents, it's just 45 kgs and up. No cardio machines. It's just Olympic weights. Go for it. So also it's the way in which we gender our environments is something that we need to consider.
Sure, that's actually, and that ties into the ballet with the rugby. You know, that's basically just the opposite of that. Actually, I forgot to mention this. One of my cousins is actually my mom's cousin. He was in the early 90s, early 2000s. He was a ballerina. Wow, do you say?
No, it's
ballerina, still the same. Okay, so by that time it was for us like a massive thing, because he went from South Africa, went to the States, and that actually ties into the partner thing, man. So he met his wife; she was his partner as a dancer.
Sure.
They moved to the States. He performed in the States, started teaching in the States as well, and I mean they still live there till this day.
Moral of the story: marry a dancer.
Listen, you said it, but you went to the opposite side of the dancing. But yeah, so I mean, I think they in South Africa, I mean, in the world, we have a duty, I think, actually, to empower females, you know, and women in sport, and just in different workplaces in general, you know. I'm thinking back of my late mom. She was a cyclist back in the day, you know, in apartheid years, and for me, it was normal to hear that my mom was one of 5 children, but she was the youngest and a girl. Of female, my mom. And she played rugby and cricket and athletics, did everything with her brothers. cycled with them,
Yeah.
everything. And for me, it was just normal. Okay, no, so mommy played rugby, but come to think of it, it was in the 80s, 70s. You know what I'm saying?
Wasn't
So
supposed to be
it
normal.
wasn't supposed to be normal. 60s actually.
Yeah.
But
But because of your exposure,
yeah,
absolutely.
I was raised for.
Yeah.
My mom was a businesswoman. She
Yeah.
was an entrepreneur. She was like, she was the main breadwinner
Yeah,
actually for a
definitely.
big part.
Yeah.
So I was used to roles being reversed. A female doing this and taking charge and starting businesses and running companies.
Mhm.
And my dad being home with us, taking care of the kids, make sure everything is fine. So for me, being that type of figure in my family today, it's like it's normal. So that's why I think for me it's something that's really important, to encourage the ladies and females to do the sport, and do different types of sport, and expose yourself, to more things. So yeah, and like just another question that I actually thought about, like your take on the investment in female sport in South Africa, like what would you say would be something that where people should look into maybe investing into female sport?
Sure. So, I mean, I can't really speak
I can
for...
change the question around.
Yeah?
I can ask you, if you were, like I posed it before, if you could be the CEO of, say, SA Rugby for a day, what would you change to better empower females in the game?
Rugby specifically, right? So
Yeah, all sports across the board, but
yeah, I think I'm gonna stick to rugby.
Yeah.
And it's the development at grassroots level. And I think what is more important is, because that will lay foundation for long-term player development.
Yeah.
I personally don't believe that we have a sustainable system that holistically looks at the female athlete. So my vision as, who am I, CEO?
Yeah.
Okay.
CEO.
I just need to put on the right hat. Director.
Yeah.
So my vision would be to embrace the female athlete, not accommodate.
Yeah.
Embrace the female athlete because she's a mother.
Yeah.
She is the breadwinner. So can she make this her career? Because if I can't make it my career, I'm not going to stick to it, right?
Yeah.
And currently we can't say that our female rugby players can all make this their long-term career and sustain it.
They can't.
Many of them have professional degrees. So how do we utilize that? So how do we take the female athlete in rugby, develop them, introduce them at grassroots level to the sport, develop them holistically, take into consideration physiological, biomechanical growth, physical, expose them to the technical, tactical aspects of rugby so that they learn it from a theoretical perspective, then can also apply it, introduce it, touchies, introduce sevens, tens, those games at grassroots, tag, absolutely. Because then there's almost a buffer before you get to the physical contact, because a lot of parents are also saying contact and is it
scared,
and it's unhealthy and physically it's not great for females, and there's a lot of research has been done on that. So with that long-term player development, that way they'll move into a system where once they're at high school, there's now established teams, they can start playing age groups. That means when they go from high school, when they get into a club system, they can play with their age groups. Within their age groups, they're not playing with gents and females. You in matric, but you're playing under 21 coma week or whatever the case may be. I'm making it up now.
Yes.
But just as an idea. And so just providing from the, should they enter a system where it's high performance, then at least they have the knowledge to sustain. What is it like being a high performance athlete? How do I focus? How do I goal set? What is it going to take from me as a female athlete to sustain my body, mental health, physical well-being, physiological factors, everything that goes through that. Speak about the menstrual cycle, how it affects you, how does it affect my training, my body, and then So that's career, but then also post-career. How
Yeah.
do we support our women
Mm.
after that? If you're a mother, how do we have a space for you where you can come back into the system as a coach, a mentor coach, a facilitator, a coach educator,
Yeah.
maybe broadcasting? How can we get you in to sit around the table
Yeah.
with the men that make the decisions about us as women players? I say us like I play, but so invested.
Yes.
So that would be my aim, my mission, my plea as a director of rugby is to really holistically consider our female in the sport from grassroots all the way to development en dan wanneer die ligte afgaan. Wat dan?
Sure.
Big goal.
That was a great answer actually.
Big
I'll make sure
goal.
this clip gets to Rashi.
Please do.
So Rashi can see
Oh.
your vision that you already have.
I gaan sê, how many years do you need? You can phone me.
Yeah, now if we can pull you in, you know,
Sure.
so we can get that ball rolling. And I mean that was an awesome answer. And I think, do you think? Because I think I'm not sure if it is the fact in New Zealand where boys and girls they play together.
Yeah.
From a young age.
From a young age.
And then even if it's touch as well, you know, touch and then start integrating the contact, you know. I mean, if they're young, it's not bad.
Yes.
They can bowl and then they can make the split at a certain age. Okay, this is boys and that's girls, you know. Because I think for ladies, for females, it would just lift their game up, you know. Because if they play from under 5, 6, 7 up until the age of you know, say 13, 12, 13, and then they can say, all right, okay, now girls play against girls, boys play.
I know you. Because a lot of people think the physical aspect is just mental.
Yeah.
But you'll hear them say, males and females, you need to learn hoe om die stampe weer te vat. Even when gents come from you know, return to play. It's not just the physical, oh, nou moet ek 'n hit vat. It's really, or the mental, it's really physical as, or your body's not used to that.
Yes, 100%.
So to fall on the floor and to get up, that is something that we're not used to. And you're asking this young lady of 18, 20, 21 years old to learn about everything that someone her age, a gent, would have known for the past 10 years of his life, at least. It's a big ask. And then all we are interested in is the results and why they didn't qualify.
Sure. Jocelyn, so this was actually a very insightful conversation. I'm pretty sure if I had more time, I know you have more time. If I had more time, this conversation could definitely take up a series, and we'll definitely have another conversation going forward. But I just want to thank you for today, man, and thank you for what you've done with female sports. And just keep on, like I said, if we can get this video to SA Rugby, I'm sure there will be a position opening up for you ASAP.
Thank you, I receive it.
There you go. But just keep doing what you're doing and your passion for the sport, and not just for rugby, but for sport in general. For the person that you are, you always bring energy and a certain light, you know, wherever you go. Keep hold on to that and keep doing that and bringing that to the table. I just want to thank you for sitting down with me.
Thank you, JR. I appreciate it.
Awesome conversation. All right, guys. That's episode 30, JR's Corner. Peace and love.